There is something quietly devastating about the way we love today. But as fractured souls, desperately searching for completion, we cling to our partners with white knuckles, terrified that if we loosen our grip even slightly, it will vanish into the digital void from which they came. We scroll through their social media at 2 a.m, poisoning ourselves with imagined betrayals. We craft the perfect message and then delete it, rewrite it, obsess over it, as if our entire worth depends on how quickly they respond. This is not love. This is slavery dressed in romantic language. Seneca would look at modern relationships and recognize immediately what we refuse to see. He would see the anxiety that masquerades as passion. He would see the neediness that pretends to be devotion. He would see people who have outsourced their peace of mind to another human being, granting someone else total authority over their emotional state. And he would ask the question that makes us uncomfortable. How can you claim to love someone when you cannot even govern yourself? 2,000 years ago, Seneca understood something that our relationship experts and dating coaches seem to have forgotten. He understood that the quality of your relationships is determined entirely by the quality of your inner life. A person who does not possess themselves cannot truly offer themselves to another. Instead, they will bring their chaos into the relationship and blame their partner when that chaos inevitably creates suffering. They will demand that another person fill voids that can only be filled from within. They will mistake emotional dependence for deep connection, possessiveness for commitment, and fear of abandonment for love, in his letters to Lucilius. Seneca wrote extensively about the nature of attachment and how it enslaves us. He was not advocating for cold detachment or emotional numbness. He was warning against the kind of desperate clinging that destroys both our dignity and our capacity for genuine connection. He saw clearly that when we make another person responsible for our happiness, we transform love into a prison. We become paranoid guards, constantly monitoring, constantly afraid, constantly exhausting ourselves and our partners with our insecurity. This is the opposite of love. This is control born from terror. Think about the modern relationship landscape for a moment. Think about how people meet now, through apps that reduce human beings to a collection of photos and a brief bio, where everyone is shopping for something better, even while claiming they want something real. Think about the games people play, the strategic delays in responding, the careful curation of mystery and availability. Think about the anxiety that permeates everything, the way people obsessively analyze every text message for hidden meanings, the way they construct entire narratives of rejection from the smallest delays or changes in tone. This is a system designed to create insecurity, and insecurity is the enemy of love. Seneca would see this and recognize it as a form of self-torture. He would ask why we willingly participate in dynamics that make us small, fearful, and reactive. He would point out that we have become addicted to the very things that make us miserable, that we mistake intensity for depth, drama for passion, and constant communication for intimacy. And in doing so, we've given away the one thing that can never be surrendered without losing ourselves entirely: our inner freedom. The Stoics had a word for the ideal state of mind, a state they believed was the foundation of all virtue and peace. They called it Apatheia, which is often mistranslated as apathy, but actually means something far more profound. It means freedom from destructive passions. It means the ability to love without being enslaved by love, to care without being consumed by caring, to engage fully with life while maintaining your inner equilibrium. This is not coldness. This is strength. This is the capacity to be present with another person without losing yourself in them, to appreciate their presence without needing it for your survival, to love them without making them responsible for your peace. Modern relationships are built on the opposite principle. They are built on the idea that love should overwhelm you, possess you, complete you. We romanticize obsession. We celebrate the person who cannot eat or sleep or think about anything else when they are in love. We create songs and movies and entire cultural narratives around the idea that real love means losing yourself. surrendering your identity, merging so completely with another person that you no longer exist as an independent being. And then we wonder why relationships end in resentment, why people feel trapped, why love so often transforms into a cage. Seneca would tell you that this approach to love is a guaranteed path to suffering. Not because love itself is dangerous, but because we approach it from a position of poverty rather than abundance. We enter relationships believing that another person can fix us, complete us, make us whole. We treat our partners like emotional support animals, expecting them to regulate our moods, validate our worth, and prove to us constantly that we matter. This is an impossible burden to place on another human being. No one can heal your wounds but you. No one can give you the self-worth that you refuse to cultivate within yourself. No one can make you feel secure if you are fundamentally at war with who you are. Consider the way people talk about relationships today. They speak of finding their other half as if they are incomplete beings wandering through life in search of the missing piece. They speak of falling in love as if love is something that happens to you, something beyond your control, a force that sweeps you away and renders you helpless. This language reveals everything. It reveals that we have abdicated responsibility for our emotional lives. It reveals that we see love not as a choice but as a form of beautiful destruction. It reveals that we have no idea how to love while remaining whole. Seneca understood that. True strength in relationships comes from not needing them. This sounds paradoxical to modern ears, but it is perhaps the most important truth about love that you will ever encounter. When you are complete within yourself, when you have cultivated inner peace and self-sufficiency, when you can be alone without being lonely, then and only then can you love freely. Because you are not loving from desperation. You are not clinging to avoid the terror of your own company. You are choosing to share your life with someone because it enhances both of your experiences, not because you need them to rescue you from yourself. This is the difference between attachment and love. Attachment says, I need you. I cannot function without you. My happiness depends on you staying exactly as you are and never leaving. Love says, I value you. I choose you. I want to build something meaningful with you, but I am whole whether you stay or go. Attachment creates anxiety because it is rooted in fear. Love creates peace because it is rooted in freedom. Love trusts in its own worth and in the other person's autonomy. Attachment suffocates. Love breathes. Look at the way people behave in modern relationships when they are operating from attachment rather than love. They check their partner's phone. They demand to know where they are at all times. They get upset when their partner spends time with friends or pursues their own interests. They interpret any desire for space as a sign of waning affection. They punish any behavior that triggers their insecurity. They turn love into a surveillance state where neither person can move freely without justifying themselves. This is not intimacy. This is to people who are terrified of being alone, using each other as emotional crutches. Seneca would be horrified by this. Not because he lacked compassion, but because he understood that this kind of dynamic destroys everyone involved. The person who is clinging feels constant anxiety because they know deep down that you cannot hold someone through force or manipulation. The person being clung to feels suffocated and begins to resent the relationship, even if they genuinely care. Both people become smaller versions of themselves. Both people sacrifice their dignity. Both people forget what it means to be free. And all of this happens under the banner of love, when in reality, it is the opposite of love. The Stoics believe that the only things we truly control are our own thoughts, judgments, and actions. Everything else, including other people and their choices, is outside our sphere of control. This is not a depressing truth. This is a liberating one. It means that your peace of mind cannot depend on your partner behaving a certain way. It means that your worth cannot be determined by whether someone chooses to stay with you. It means that you are responsible for your own inner state. And while a relationship can add joy and meaning to your life, it cannot be the foundation of your well-being. That foundation must be built within yourself, through the cultivation of virtue, wisdom, and self-discipline. When Seneca wrote about love, he emphasized again and again that we must love wisely, not obsessively. He did not say we should avoid deep feelings or meaningful connections. He said we should not allow those feelings to compromise our rationality and freedom. He said we should not grant another person the power to destabilize us completely. He said we should be able to think clearly even when we are in love, to maintain our principles even when we are attracted to someone, to recognize when a relationship is harming us, even when we feel deeply attached. This is mature love. This is love that respects both yourself and the other person as autonomous beings. Think about jealousy, that poison that infects so many relationships. Modern culture treats jealousy as if it is proof of love, as if feeling jealous means you care deeply. Some people even become suspicious when their partner does not exhibit jealousy, interpreting the absence of jealousy as indifference. Seneca would see this as madness. Jealousy is not love. Jealousy is the manifestation of your own insecurity and lack of self-worth. That your partner will inevitably realize your inadequacy and leave. Jealousy treats your partner as property rather than a person. It assumes they are incapable of choosing. Controlled. A person who is secure within themselves does not experience jealousy because they understand several fundamental truths. First, they understand that if their partner genuinely wants to be with someone else, trying to prevent that through control or manipulation will only delay the inevitable and create resentment. Second, they understand that their worth is not determined by whether someone chooses them over others. Third, they understand that love cannot exist without trust, and jealousy is the absence of trust. Fourth, they understand that they will be fine regardless of what happens, because their peace is not dependent on any external relationship. This is not naivety. Honestly, and ask yourself difficult questions. Do you love this person, or are you terrified of being alone? Do you value their companionship, or do you need their validation to feel worthy? Do you want to build something meaningful together, or are you using them to avoid dealing with yourself? Are you in this relationship by choice, or are you trapped by fear? Can you imagine your life without them and still feel whole, or does the thought send you into a spiral of panic? Your answers to these questions will reveal whether you are loving freely or clinging desperately. There is a profound difference between wanting someone and needing them. When you want someone, you appreciate their presence. You enjoy building a life with them. You value what they bring to your experience. But you know that you would continue to be yourself, to grow, to find meaning, even if they were not there. When you need someone, you have made them essential to your survival. You have convinced yourself that you cannot be happy, cannot be complete, cannot function properly without them. This need masquerades as deep love, but it is actually a form of addiction. And like all addictions, it creates suffering, desperation, and a loss of self. Consider how people behave when they need rather than want. They become unrecognizable. They abandon their values to keep someone happy. They tolerate disrespect, betrayal, or mistreatment because they are terrified of being alone. They sacrifice their goals, their friendships, their integrity, anything to maintain the relationship. They live in a constant state of anxiety, always monitoring the relationship for signs of trouble, always trying to be whatever they think will make the other person stay. This is not love. This is self-abandonment. And Seneca would tell you that no relationship is worth the cost of your dignity and inner peace. The Stoics believed that we should be indifferent to things outside our control. But they did not mean we should not care about anything. They meant we should not allow our peace to depend on things we cannot control. In relationships, this means caring deeply about your partner while simultaneously accepting that you cannot control their choices, their feelings, or whether they stay. This sounds impossible to most people because we have been taught that real love means making someone your whole world. But making someone your whole world is how you guarantee your own destruction. Because people change. Feelings change. Circumstances change. And if your entire sense of self is wrapped up in another person, You become hostage to forces beyond your control. Seneca lived through tremendous personal loss. He experienced exile, betrayal, the deaths of loved ones, and eventually his own forced suicide. He understood suffering intimately. And what he learned through all of this is that peace is only possible when you cultivate it from within. When you build your life on principles rather than on people or circumstances. He loved his wife deeply, but he did not make her responsible for his happiness. He valued his friendships, but he did not need them to feel worthy. And this freedom is what allowed him to face whatever came with dignity and calm. Modern relationships are characterized by a peculiar kind of desperation. People are so afraid of being hurt that they try to protect themselves through control. They demand constant communication, not because they genuinely need it, but because silence triggers anxiety about what the other person might be thinking or doing. They require constant reassurance of love, not because they doubt their partner's feelings, but because they doubt their own worthiness of being loved. They create drama and conflict to test the relationship, to prove to themselves that the other person will fight for them. All of this dysfunction stems from the same root, an inner emptiness that they are trying to fill with another person. Seneca would say that before you can love someone well, you must first become someone worth knowing. You must cultivate virtue within yourself. You must develop emotional discipline, self-awareness, and the capacity for rational thought even in the midst of strong feelings. You must learn to be comfortable in your own company, to find peace in solitude, to build a life that has meaning independent of any relationship. This is not selfishness. This is preparation. Because a person who has done this inner work brings something valuable to a relationship. They bring stability rather than chaos. They bring confidence rather than neediness. They bring love rather than desperation. Think about the advice that dominates modern relationship culture. People are told to play games, to appear mysterious, to make themselves scarce to increase their value. They are told that showing too much interest is a turnoff, that vulnerability is weakness. You should never let someone know how much you care. This is insanity born from insecurity. Seneca would tell you to be straightforward, to communicate clearly, to show up as yourself without apology or manipulation. He would tell you that if you have to play games to keep someone interested, they are not interested in you anyway. They are interested in the performance you are putting on, and you will exhaust yourself trying to maintain that performance forever. Real connection happens when two people can be honest with each other about who they are, what they want, and what they are willing to offer. It happens when both people are secure enough within themselves that they do not need to manipulate or control. It happens when love is a choice made freely every day, not a trap that people fall into and then struggle to escape. On people presenting curated versions of themselves while hiding anything that might be deemed unattractive. And then we wonder why relationships feel hollow, why people feel like they never really know each other, why trust is so hard to establish. Seneca distinguished between different types of friendships and relationships. He believed that the highest form of connection was one based on virtue, where two people valued each other for their character, their wisdom, their commitment to living well. He was deeply skeptical of relationships based on pleasure or utility, where people were only connected because of what they got from each other. In modern terms, this means that the strongest relationships are not built on attraction alone, or on convenience, or on mutual neediness. They are built on shared values, mutual respect, and a genuine appreciation for who the other person is at their core. How many modern relationships would survive this standard? How many people are actually with their partners because they admire their character and values? How many are together because it is convenient, or because they are afraid to be alone, or because they have invested so much time that leaving feels like failure? How many people have convinced themselves they are in love, when really they are just attached to familiarity and terrified of starting over? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary ones. Because if you are in a relationship for the wrong reasons, you are wasting precious time that could be spent either finding a genuine connection or developing yourself into someone capable of one. Seneca believed in the practice of negative visualization, of imagining loss not to make yourself miserable, but to prepare yourself emotionally and to appreciate what you have while you have it. He would tell you to imagine your partner leaving, not because you expect it or want it, but because it is always a possibility. And he would ask you, if they left tomorrow, would you fall apart? Would you lose yourself? Would your life become meaningless? If the answer is yes, then you are not in a healthy relationship. You are in a dependency disguised as love. And the only solution is to rebuild yourself from within. To cultivate a life that has meaning and purpose, independent of any relationship, this does not mean you should not care about your partner or that their leaving should not hurt. Of course it would hurt. Of course you would grieve. But grief is different from collapse. Grief is a natural response to loss that eventually transforms and integrates into your life. Collapse is what happens when you have built your entire identity on someone else and they take it with them when they go. The Stoics grieved deeply when they lost loved ones. But they did not fall apart because they had maintained their inner strength throughout the relationship. They had loved without surrendering their autonomy. Consider the concept of emotional neediness and why it is so destructive. When you are emotionally needy, you require constant input from your partner to feel okay. You need them to text you throughout the day. You need them to tell you they love you repeatedly. You need them to prioritize you over everything else in their life. You need them to prove their devotion constantly because you do not believe in it fundamentally. This neediness exhausts both of you. That they cannot have a bad day or need space without you falling apart. And you live in constant anxiety, always monitoring, always needing reassurance, always afraid that the slightest change means abandonment. Seneca would tell you that this neediness is not your partner's responsibility to manage. It is yours. And the only way to manage it is to build inner security. You must learn that you are fundamentally okay on your own. You must develop interests, friendships, and pursuits that fulfill you independent of your romantic relationship. You must stop using your partner as a substitute for self-esteem. You must recognize that another person's love, no matter how genuine, cannot fix your relationship with yourself. That is internal work that only you can do. There is something particularly insidious about the way we use relationships to avoid dealing with ourselves. We throw ourselves into romance as a distraction from the difficult work of self-examination and growth. We convince ourselves that we just need to find the right person and then everything will be okay. We ignore our own flaws, our unhealed wounds, our unhealthy patterns, because we are too busy focusing on someone else. And then we bring all of that unresolved material into the relationship and wonder why it becomes complicated and painful. Seneca would tell you that you cannot escape yourself through another person. Your issues will follow you into every relationship until you finally turn around and face them. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort. To strengthen themselves, Seneca would periodically deprive himself of luxuries to ensure he did not become dependent on them. He would sleep on a hard floor, eat simple food, experience cold and discomfort, all to prove to himself that he could endure hardship if necessary. This same principle applies to relationships. You should periodically spend time alone, not to test your partner or punish them, but to ensure that you maintain your capacity for solitude. You should be able to enjoy your own company. You should be able to find peace and meaning in your life without constant interaction with your partner. If you cannot do this, you are not in a relationship. You are in a dependency. Think about the quality of attention you bring to your relationships. Are you present with your partner, or are you constantly distracted by your phone? By anxieties about the future? By grudges about the past? Are you listening to understand them, or are you just waiting for your turn to talk? Most people are so lost in their own internal dramas that they never truly see their partner. They relate to an image, a fantasy, a collection of expectations, but not to the real human being in front of them. They are with someone who is not actually present. Seneca emphasized the importance of attention and presence. He believed that one of the greatest forms of respect you could show another person was to be fully present with them. In modern relationships, this has become increasingly rare. People are physically together but mentally elsewhere, scrolling through social media, thinking about work, planning their next move in the relationship rather than experiencing the current moment. This lack of presence creates a subtle but profound disconnection. Your partner feels it when you are not really there, when you are going through the motions without genuine engagement. And over time, this erodes intimacy far more effectively than any dramatic conflict. There is a particular form of suffering that comes from staying in relationships that no longer serve your growth or align with your values. Seneca would tell you that loyalty is a virtue, but so is wisdom. And wisdom sometimes means recognizing when a relationship has run its course. When you have grown in different directions, when staying together is preventing both of you from becoming who you need to be. We are taught that ending a relationship is failure, that commitment means staying no matter what, that love conquers all. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do is release someone. And sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is walk away. This does not mean giving up at the first sign of difficulty. Relationships require work, patience, and forgiveness. But there is a difference between working through challenges in a relationship that is fundamentally healthy and trying to resuscitate something that has died. If you are with someone who consistently disrespects you, who shows you through their actions that you are not a priority, who refuses to grow or address their destructive patterns, then staying is not loyalty. It is self-betrayal. Seneca would ask you, what are you teaching yourself about your worth by accepting this treatment? What message are you sending about what you believe you deserve? The Stoics believed in amor fati, love of fate, acceptance of whatever life brings. But acceptance does not mean passivity. It does not mean tolerating situations that harm you. It means responding to circumstances with wisdom and appropriate action, rather than with denial or desperate clinging. In relationships, this means accepting the truth of what is happening, even when it is painful. If your partner is not treating you well, and once you accept the reality, you can make a wise decision about how to respond. Modern relationships are often characterized by a kind of magical thinking, a belief that if we just love someone hard enough, if we just give them enough chances, if we just try hard enough to be what they need, they will eventually become the partner we want them to be. This is not love. This is delusion. People show you who they are through their consistent patterns of behavior. When someone shows you that they are unreliable, believe them. When someone shows you that your well-being is not a priority for them, believe them. When someone shows you that they are not willing to do the work required for a healthy relationship, believe them. Do not waste years of your life waiting for someone to become someone they are not. Seneca wrote extensively about the importance of using time wisely, of recognizing that our days are finite and that we will die sooner than we think. He would be appalled at how people waste years in relationships that make them miserable. Relationships where they are consistently unhappy but stay out of fear or habit or sunk cost. Every day you spend in a relationship that diminishes you is a day you cannot get back. Every moment you waste trying to force something that does not work naturally is a moment you could be spending building a life that actually fulfills you. This is not about being impatient or giving up easily. This is about respecting yourself enough to recognize when something is not serving your growth and having the courage to make a change. Consider what it means to love someone without losing yourself. It means maintaining your boundaries, even when they are uncomfortable for your partner. It means saying no when something does not align with your values, even if it creates conflict. It means pursuing your own goals and interests, even if your partner wants more of your time. It means being honest about your feelings, even when honesty is difficult. It means refusing to betray yourself to keep someone else comfortable. This requires tremendous strength because we are taught that love means compromise, accommodation, putting the other person first. But there is a difference between healthy compromise and self-abandonment. Seneca will tell you that the foundation of any good relationship is to people who are complete within themselves, choosing to walk together. Not two incomplete people clinging to each other for survival. Not one person sacrificing everything to serve the other. Not a constant negotiation of who matters more, But two individuals who respect each other's autonomy, exotes come who support each other's growth. Exotes have them enhance each other's lives without becoming dependent on each other for basic functioning. This is rare because it requires both people to have done the difficult inner work that most people avoid. Think about the role of communication in modern relationships and how poorly most people do it. They hint rather than state clearly. They expect their partner to read their minds and then get upset when their unstated needs are not met. They store up resentments rather than addressing issues as they arise. They use passive-aggressive comments instead of direct conversation. They lie to avoid conflict, not realizing that small lies accumulate and destroy trust. All of this stems from insecurity, from the fear that if they are too direct, too honest, too demanding, they will be rejected. And so, they create elaborate dances of miscommunication that guarantee the very problems they are trying to avoid. Seneca valued directness and honesty above almost everything else. He believed that truth, even when painful, was always preferable to comfortable delusion. In relationships, this means saying what you mean, meaning what you say, and being willing to have difficult conversations. It means telling your partner when something bothers you, rather than expecting them to guess. It means being honest about your feelings, your needs, your boundaries. It means not playing games or manipulating through silence or withdrawal. This level of honesty is frightening because it makes you vulnerable, but it is also the only path to genuine intimacy. There is a profound loneliness that comes from being in a relationship where you cannot be honest, where you have to constantly edit yourself, where you are performing a version of yourself that you think your partner wants, rather than showing up as you actually are. This is one of the cruelest forms of isolation because you are physically with someone but emotionally alone. You cannot share your real thoughts, your real fears, your real self, because you are terrified that the real you is not good enough. And so you exile yourself from intimacy while pretending to be in a close relationship. Seneca would tell you that this is no way to live, that you deserve to be with someone who loves you as you are, not as you pretend to be. But here's the difficult truth. Before you can be loved as you are, you must become someone you can respect. If you are constantly lying, manipulating, avoiding responsibility, refusing to grow, then your fear of being known is justified. Not because you are fundamentally unlovable, but because you are not living according to your own values. Seneca believed that virtue was the foundation of self-respect, and self-respect was the foundation of healthy relationships. If you do not respect yourself, you will either attract people who do not respect you, or you will sabotage relationships with people who do, because you cannot believe that their respect is genuine. The Stoics practiced self-examination daily. Seneca recommended reviewing your day each night, considering where you acted according to reason and virtue and where you fell short. We react in ways that feel justified in the moment, but are actually just old wounds being triggered. We project our fears onto our partners and then respond to the projection rather than the reality. We repeat the same conflicts over and over because we have not examined the underlying patterns. Self-examination breaks these cycles by bringing awareness to what we are actually doing. Think about the patterns in your relationships. Do you always end up with people who are emotionally unavailable? Do you create drama when things get too stable? Do you sabotage intimacy right when it starts to deepen? Do you become controlling when you feel insecure? Do you withdraw when you need connection the most? These patterns are not random. They are protection mechanisms that you developed at some point, probably in childhood, and they made sense then. But now they are destroying your capacity for healthy connection. Seneca would tell you to bring these patterns into the light, to examine them without judgment, and to consciously choose different responses. There is something deeply tragic about watching people repeat the same relationship patterns for decades, always blaming their partners, always convinced that if they just found the right person, everything would be different. The right person cannot fix your patterns. The right person can only show up healthily if you show up healthily. If you are dysfunctional, you will create dysfunction in every relationship, no matter how healthy your partner is. This is why the work is always internal. This is why no relationship can save you from yourself. This is why Seneca insisted that virtue and self-mastery were prerequisites for any kind of lasting peace or happiness. Consider the difference between conditional and unconditional love. Most modern relationships are deeply conditional. People stay as long as their needs are being met, as long as their partner continues to be attractive or successful or interesting. As long as the relationship provides more pleasure than pain. This is transactional love, and while there is nothing wrong with it necessarily, it is not the highest form of love. Seneca believed that true friendship, true connection, was based on something deeper than mutual benefit. It was based on shared virtue, on seeing and valuing the essential character of the other person, on a bond that could endure changes in circumstance. This does not mean you should stay in relationships that are harmful or that have fundamentally changed. It means that the highest form of love is not based on what someone can do for you, but on who they are and what they stand for. It means loving someone for their integrity, their courage, their kindness, their commitment to growth, rather than for their status or appearance or ability to meet your needs. When you love this way, the relationship becomes less fragile because it is not dependent on superficial things that change. It is anchored in something more stable.